News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. This is the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP. Well, that is it, guys. We have word. The IDF has decided on the type of attack. No word yet on, and it'll be a counterstrike on Iran. No word yet on whether it'll be nuclear, as the Biden administration is reportedly literally begging Netanyahu to not use nukes. Here's Trey Inks from Fox News.
Local media reports the Israeli war cabinet has made their decision to respond to that brazen Iranian attack over the weekend. Right now, the entire country is bracing for the possibility of a broader conflict. Both the southern and northern fronts have remained active. More rocket fire today from Gaza, attack drones fired from southern Lebanon. Israeli officials remain on high alert, understanding this could be the beginning of a very difficult chapter for the country. They understand they need international support, and they are calling on their allies across the globe to sanction the Iranians as they weigh military options.
Well, we have that. We also have a report from the Jerusalem Post. IDF has decided on type, not timing, of counterstrike in Iran. All the necessary complex preparations are being made. They're giving them a week right now, saying it's the Passover week. Let's act normal and give them some time. Our folks are, this is what they said, according to the Jerusalem Post. The IDF Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, said, yeah, we want to give them a week off. They're used to having this, to being prepared. Or it could be, the Jerusalem Post says tonight, that it could be a clever fake out to get Iran and its proxies to lower their guard. Options are speculated. Speculated options are, according to the J-Post, striking Iran nuclear facilities, which I support. Take out their nuclear capabilities that are just about there. Big time. I mean, we're talking some big ammunitions. Or middle of the road, striking their drone and ballistic missile facilities directly involved in the Iranian strike. I think that should be done too. Two more limited options, like assassinating people. They're already doing that. Today they announced they assassinated Youssef Baz, a senior Hezbollah commander, coastal commander managing rocket and anti-tank missiles from Lebanon on Israel. IRCG, Iranian Republican Guard companies, or their accomplices, or a mix of the above with a large cyber attack. I think they should do all three, all four. Because here's the thing, this is their existence. And I read a great piece today written by one of the editors in the Wall Street Journal called "Israel Has No Choice But to Strike Back Against Iran." What if the October 7th attack, the Little Holocaust, the horrific terror attack that killed 1,200 Jews, now Hamas saying they only have 20 of the 135 hostages left alive? What if they had repelled that attack? What if they had repelled 90% of that attack? Would we be telling them to not strike back, like Joe Biden's telling Israel to not strike back on this? Make sense? What if they repelled 90% of the attack on October 7th? Should they then not attack back? That's what Joe's asking them to do with this. Do you know the number of missiles and drones and everything? It's even worse. This is revealed today by the IDF and the Jerusalem Post. Israel was attacked by over 500 aerial threats on Saturday night into Sunday morning. And they're not going to respond? Are you freaking kidding me? Take out their nuclear facility, take out their training facilities, and take out their missile plants and drone plants. Just take them out. And then they'll keep doing methodically killing all their leadership. But that's a separate thing. They've decided on the attack. Now they haven't decided what date, when they're going to pull the trigger, or maybe they have and they're doing a fake out. Here's my questions for you. How hard do you expect Israel to hit Iran back? And what do you think Israel's response should be? Should they ignore Biden's imploring them not to respond, especially with nukes? Can you believe that? And should Israel hit back with sanctions instead of violence, as Biden wants? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. That's 800-288-WBAP. What do you think Israel's response should be here? Should they ignore Biden's imploring them not to respond at all, especially with nukes? I can't believe they're saying don't do any response after this. It's shocking. And then what would you do if you were Israel? What would you do? I'd hit them back super hard at all these things: the nuclear program, the training facilities, the drone and missile facilities. So they can't do it. They literally, what has to be done is stop Iran from being able to do this again. Meaning, no more missiles, no more drones, and no more training facilities and warehouses, and kill their commanders as continuation of all this. I mean, it can take years, like it did with Munich in '72 with the Olympics. Doesn't matter. That's a separate thing. Like, okay, that goes on next week, a year from now, 2 years from now. Just keep killing all the leadership that was there right now, that is there right now. And then number two, the immediate attacks got to be those. That's it. They're not going to do nuclear, though. That would only be if Iran hit them even harder. So that's what they got to do. What do you think? How hard do you want Israel to strike back against Iran, and what would you do? I mean, how would you strike back if you were Israel? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Here's a little bit more on the Jerusalem Post's coverage. Some signals are indicating the Air Force will be involved in an unusually significant target. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says the Iranians failed in their attack and they will fail to deter Israel. The skies of Middle East are wide open for the Israeli Air Force. Every enemy that comes after us will be struck wherever they are. Let me tell you something else that was just so amazing, and it's all because of President Donald J. Trump and the Abraham Accords. Saudi Arabia has become very tight with Jerusalem. Jordan has become very tight with Jerusalem. What that means is two of the areas that have to be flown over to attack Israel are refusing to work with the Arab nations that hate it, refusing to work with Iran, and they're now defending Israel because they see their partnership with Israel as more fruitful and beneficial to them versus the Iranian terrorists. Saudi Arabia are sworn enemies of Iran, but this is like a big first ever, and it's because of Trump's groundwork in the Abraham Accords. Saudi Arabia is defending Israel. They have denounced Iran for this attack, and their airspace, they have defended it and shot down a lot of these Iranian attacks that went over Saudi Arabia, shot down by Saudis. Same thing with Jordan. So this is unprecedented in the attack, but it's also unprecedented in the response. It's astoundingly well defended with these other two countries. So they're not going to go after this. They might do a statement saying, "Oh, that was a little too harsh. We wish it was more this or that." But without non-publicly, privately, they're going to say no problem, and they're going to keep doing business with Israel because they want peace, and they saw what happened, and they know that Israel is the big brat terrorists and terrorist sponsors, the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the Middle East. We used to say that, and the media used to say that, but we never fully understood it, at least for me personally. I never fully understood it until what we've seen. You literally have Yemen, and by the way, Israel, in addition to being attacked by the 300-plus, 320, 330 ballistic missiles, which are very serious and very hard to shoot down comparatively. The cruise missiles, easy to shoot down comparatively speaking, but still they're missiles nonetheless. And then the drone attacks. So, but was also not really mentioned is the 500-plus aerial bombardments also came from Hezbollah that Iran funds and trains. Also from Hamas, which Iran funds and trains. And Yemen, the Houthis out of Yemen, which they also fund and train, and all of them were attacking Israel in a coordinated strike, all funded, trained, and armed by Iran. So what must happen is the threat must be eliminated. Doesn't mean you have to turn Iran into parking lot, but it means every single thing involved in this, the missiles, the ballistic missiles, the cruise missiles, and the drones, those places where they produce those must be destroyed, and they know where they are. The nuclear facility, where they're this close, quote-unquote, to getting a nuclear weapon, must be taken out. And that's deep underneath a mountain, about 300 feet below at least, and deeper, so that it can't be struck, but Israel will strike it with some very, very heavy weaponry. And I think it's going to be interesting. They're going to do possibly rope-a-dope in, let it go a week or so. All of us will forget. Because, the news cycle goes bye-bye in a day or two after this. And it'll be quiet. And then a week or two from now, maybe even 3 weeks from now, we will be awakened with a massive show of force. I pray and I hope, and that's exactly what must happen, because they can never allow this to happen again, and the way to never allow it to happen again is to destroy the capabilities of their enemy from ever doing this again. This is an existential. This is for their existence, and they must show the world that nothing will be tolerated. Nothing, let alone something of this nature. And Joe Biden wants to win in Michigan, in Minnesota, in Wisconsin, but he has sold out our Jewish friends in Israel. He has sold out the Israeli government because he wants to win re-election in November. So I pray that the three ministers that have put this together, the defense cabinet, which is Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, and funny enough, his number one political opponent, they've all come together and they've determined this, and they know they have to do this, and it has to be quick. All right. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Question for you are, what do you think Israel's response should be? Should they ignore Biden's imploring them not to respond, especially with nukes he is freaking out about? And then also, should Israel hit back with sanctions instead of violence, as Joe wants them to? I think that's a joke. And how hard do you expect Israel to hit back Iran? That's next, plus Putin surprisingly sharing some advice that's very surprising to many to Iran. It's besties, one of its several besties it has. It has Iran, North Korea, China. It's the axis of evil. All that's coming up next on the Chris Crock Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Okay, Israel has decided how they're going to strike back, and they also, but they will not tell us when it's going to happen. And they're going to reportedly give Passover week, which is this week, before they do something. But I would not be surprised if they. I mean, this is very serious. So they're not going to play around. Okay, they're certainly not going to do a Biden and announce what they're going to do. And I pray they hit back so hard, so that Iran will never do it again for some time. And I am totally down with them to do a regime change by eliminating the regime. The people of Iran do not hate us. They do not hate America, and they do not hate Israel. The people of Iran hate their government, their tyrannical, terrorist government. They want freedom, and they want to be free, and they don't want war, and they don't want terrorism. So, this is it. I hope they hit hard. Now, Putin has said, he has shared surprising advice, says Fox News. Putin expressed hope that all sides would show reasonable restraint and prevent a new round of confrontation fraught with catastrophic consequences for the entire region. So he is calling for cool heads, funny enough. Yeah, now that Iran has attacked, and he's not condemning them because they're besties, then they hit you with the biggest attack ever, directly from your soil to Israeli soil, which has never been done before. But let's be restrained. Let's be restrained. 120 ballistic missiles and 60 or 80 cruise missiles and 100 and some odd drones. No big deal. Let's have cool heads here. Oh, wow. Okay, Donald J. Trump trial day 2. There's so much to talk about on this, because you have several things. You have a 7th member of the jury, late breaking tonight, that a 7th member of the jury has been picked. Boys, this leftist, very leftist, Biden donor, 3-time Biden donor, leftist judge Juan Merchan in Manhattan. Boy, is he rushing this to get this through. He wants Trump in jail badly. I mean, he is, as I said, he's donated 3 separate times to the Biden campaign, this judge. And just so you understand, that is not normal. That is not okay. And judges that have done this should recuse themselves. It's not an equivocation on that either. It's not like maybe, or that looks bad, he probably shouldn't. It's, you have to recuse yourself when you do this. But you see, when you have the ability to give the biggest and best in-kind contribution to the guy that you keep giving money to so that he can stay in power, Joe Biden, then this is the best donation he can ever give him. Put his opponent in jail. This whole thing is so nakedly obvious now. Do you understand that the case in New York City, as I said, it's on day 2 of the jury being put together. Do you understand that this is a misdemeanor? The federal government, which would be responsible for this, the federal government, the Department of Justice, literally looked at this and said, there's no case here. We're not prosecuting. The FEC, the Federal Elections Commission, is the other one that would look at this and say, you used money for a porn star thing, and that's for your campaign contribution. And they looked at it and they refused to do anything. They said there's nothing illegal. Because he did this before he announced for president, and he did it because he's a married man, and whether or not it's true, I don't know. I'm not going to say it is or isn't, I don't know. But here's what I do know. It is very normal for somebody of this caliber who has this kind of an accusation. For example, Bill Clinton. Did you know that he paid... what's her name? I can't remember her name now, but $850,000 to go bye-bye. It was not Paula Jones. It was the other one. Just go ahead and look at Bill Clinton's settlement, $850,000. I can't remember her name now. Her face is in my my mind. It might be Paula Jones, but I can't remember what it was. It was Paula Jones? Man, there's one other one. Just Google Trump, what do you call it? Clinton settlements. It may be Paul Jones only, but he paid a woman who said you had an affair with me and you were abusive to me $850,000 to go away. He was never hit for campaign violations because he's a Democrat. He was allowed to go see his daughter Chelsea's graduation, but Trump's not allowed to see Barron's graduation. At least as of right now, the judge will not say whether he can or can't because he wants to toy with them, man. So today there were quote unquote shenanigans, if you want to call them that, but it's classic Trump in the courtroom. There's allegations of him winking. Kathleen Wiley, I think that's it. Is it around $800,000 or $850,000? Yeah, something of that nature. But then also he defiled an intern who was only 18 years of age, and but that's okay because he's a Democrat and he's not Trump. So he can settle stuff out of court with women who he's abused or have allegations against him, and he can defile his intern who's 18 in his office because he's not Donald J. Trump. Now, coming up next, we want to get into this. I'm going to get into this big time, like the latest in the Trump trial and more about the judge's details. And Trump is being threatened to not speak or say anything about the trial, but a gag order. But what's funny is who's not getting a gag order and who is speaking out about this and who is involved in this trial. It's shocking how pathetic it is in the hypocrisy. And I'm going to ask you this right now. Do you think this trial is rigged? And are you expecting a guilty verdict? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, I want to take your call, but also I'm going to tell you, you want to talk about how rigged this is. What is the percentage of Democrat voters versus Republican voters, registered Democrats in Manhattan, the jury pool alone? All that's coming up next on the Chris Kroc Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3.
The gag order is totally unconstitutional. The judge should not be there. The judge is highly conflicted. He should not be there.
We think we have a very conflicted, highly conflicted judge. He shouldn't be on the case, and he's rushing this trial. And he's doing as much as he can for the Democrats. This is a Biden-inspired witch hunt, and it should end very quickly. This trial is a disgrace. We have a Trump-hating judge. We have a judge who shouldn't be on this case. He's totally conflicted. I was paying a lawyer and marked it down as a legal expense. Some accountant, I didn't know, marked it down as a legal expense. That's exactly what it was, and you get indicted over that?
This is remarkable to see this take place. You have one candidate, Joe Biden, who is doing 3 political speeches and rallies today in Pennsylvania. A very, 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 very key state in this election. I saw the New York Times read their story today. They have about, here's the path for Trump, here's the path for Biden, and the paths for Biden are very narrow compared to Trump. But one of the things that is very critical in a lot of the scenarios is Pennsylvania. And I know you kind of knew that, but when you really look at it, it's like, Wow. And so we see what the truth is today, and we'll continue to see it for some time, that the man who is running against Joe Biden is being forced to stay in a trial. Judge Juan Merchan, a three-time Biden donor. He's donated 3 separate times to Joe Biden. As a judge, literally, you understand, the judge sitting in this case has donated to Donald Trump's political arch rival, his political opponent. And he didn't sidestep it, or excuse himself or recuse himself. Do you understand how bad that is? Think of it. The only reason Trump is in a political eye right now is because he's running against Joe Biden, and the guy determining whether he is guilty or innocent and helping determine that and directing the entire trial is a Biden supporter, openly. It's unbelievable. And he doesn't want to recuse himself because he has the ability to actually control his favorite candidate's opponent. He has the ability to do what he's done, say you cannot go anywhere during this entire 2-month-long ordeal, including the jury selection, which can take up to 2 weeks. He fell asleep today is what they're saying. Well, wait a minute. To Trump, that is. Biden probably fell asleep too. I was speaking today, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But he fell asleep today. And he fell asleep and they're ripping him on the left, but it's because, do you have any idea what it's like to sit there for hours and hours and hours as they check people out? I mean, is he going to be super attentive to one person being grilled for, a couple? I mean, it's extremely tedious and boring. And he can't speak. Of course he's going to nod off, particularly in 30 minutes straight or 40 minutes straight, where it's literally just absolutely boring. There's no controversy. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Trial lawyers, if you think a trial lawyer's life is exciting and the trial lawyer's work is exciting, it's not. About 80 to 90% or more of a trial attorney's work is in an office where no one's around. There's no flash, there's no substance, and they're not debating anybody. You're saying, may it please the court, to anybody but themselves in a room with 4 walls and nothing else going on. Perhaps the buzz of the light above their head. So, it's unbelievable. And then listen to this. This is really, really nasty. But the first question I want to ask you, though, before I get into the next point is, do you think this trial is rigged? And are you expecting a guilty verdict, regardless of what is brought out in this trial? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Here's the thing. What's really striking is the witnesses in this case. For example, Cohen, what's his name? Michael Cohen, President Trump's former attorney. Cohen is the star witness. Now, as you know, he's a convicted felon. He actually perjured himself in court. He was the judge actually said you were a serial perjurer, literally. Here's the headline from the New York Post on this. A serial perjurer will try to prove an old misdemeanor against Trump and an embarrassment to the New York legal system. So you have a man who's a felon in prison, a former attorney of Trump's, Michael Cohen, who is allowed to comment and make public comments. And when Trump publicly attacks him, doing the same thing that Cohen's doing. When Trump does it, he's ordered. Alvin Bragg filed the thing. The DA, the woke leftist DA, the Soros DA in New York City filed a motion to gag Trump, not gag Trump, he's already been gagged, but to jail him or to do something similar to Trump for speaking out and lashing out against witnesses. But the witness can attack him publicly. How is it possible that Michael Cohen, a convicted felon and, as a judge said, a serial perjurer, how is it that he can attack Trump, but Trump can't attack back? Have you ever heard of a gag order against one side but not both sides? That's what this is. And he cannot get a fair trial in Manhattan. You know why? And they're going to rope-a-dope you. They're going to make you feel like, oh, actually, they really cared. Oh, Trump's people said yes to this. But the answer, it's like being in Russia, communist Russia, when it was communist Russia. You want bread or no bread? Do you want water or no water? You're not going to get a fair jury trial because 80 to 90%, it's about 87%, I think I heard today, of all registered voters in New York City are Democrats. He will not and cannot. It's literally like 10% people that might support Trump. You cannot get a free trial there. A fair trial there. And all they had to do, as what's her name, Judge Jeanine Pirro said today on Fox, all you got to do is move it to Westchester County. There's a couple of swing counties in suburban New York City. We're literally talking adjacent to counties that are not Republican strongholds, but they're not liberal strongholds. It's kind of 50-50 or at least close to that, maybe 60 Democrat, 40 Republican. You at least get a very decent chance of getting a fair trial. This is such a disgrace. Second of all, I want you to understand fully that this is a misdemeanor that's expired. The statute of limitations on this has expired as a misdemeanor. And so, and as I mentioned, the Federal Elections Commission, which also could have gone after him for this, looked at it and refused to go after him, didn't find a violation of federal elections law. The Department of Justice looked at this and didn't find any violation. The previous district attorney for Manhattan, Cy Vance, looked at this and said no. Alvin Bragg, the current DA, looked at it and said no, but then one of his top lawyers wrote a tell-all book and attacked him. So then he came out and said, okay, yes, now I'm going to do it. That's what this is. And in order to do this, he had to take a misdemeanor that's expired and take it and attach it to a felony that would be a federal offense and say, well, because of that, this is going on, and because of that, the statute of limitations doesn't apply. They call it bootstrap. This is completely and wholly not an accurate and appropriate case whatsoever. You'll hear some legal scholars say that just exactly that coming up next as well. I'm going to play that for you. But, also I have good news. As I'm asking you tonight, do you think this trial for Donald J. Trump in New York City is rigged, and are you expecting a guilty verdict, as I am, unfortunately? First thing we're going to do is talk to Jerry, New Mexico, coming up next, plus your call at 800-288-WBAP. That's 800-288-9227. But also, this is a surprise. Voters' views of Trump's presidency improved, but also the AP NORC poll says how Americans view this case, and it is not on the side of the Democrats. Wow. That's the General Americans from an AP poll today. That's next.
Everything about this case is, in my view, legally absurd. This case is basically a state misdemeanor that had run out on the statute of limitations. They took a dead misdemeanor and bootstrapped it into effectively trying a federal crime. But the federal crime here under election law was rejected by the Department of Justice. They didn't feel that this should be charged. And it's going to turn on the testimony of people like Michael Cohen. And Michael Cohen just recently had a judge call him a serial perjurer.
Well, 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. This is completely patched together as a joke. Every foot of the 4 foot of this foundation of cases is corrupt and it's just put together to take him off the trail and to get some kind of conviction off him from a jury. They know they all know this is not a good case, but they're all doing it because they know they got a good jury to do it in a liberal Democrat stronghold. So my question for you is couplefold here. It's do you think this trial is rigged, and are you expecting a guilty verdict? As unfortunately, because we're kind of looking at this going, this is a joke. But we cannot, don't get your hopes up. Like Andy McCarthy said today, former federal prosecutor, Southern District, New York, a Republican guy who thinks this is a joke of a case and does not like Trump. He said, oh, no, I like the Manhattan juries. It's because, dude, you were prosecuting as a federal U.S. attorney. You were prosecuting terrorists. Who the heck is going to be on the side of terrorists? This is Orange Man. This is everybody there hates him, but almost everybody, like about 10% don't at least. But nonetheless, Jerry, New Mexico, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.
Chris, good evening, and just one question. Why aren't clearly biased judges required to recuse themselves, especially in such cases as we are witnessing with the legitimate president here.
Yeah, I think that the protocol that I heard about today, and protocol doesn't mean anything to liberal Democrats trying to destroy Trump or when his name is involved in anything, but protocol is to recuse yourself. I mean, the dude donated 3 different times to Joe Biden. He wants Joe Biden to be president again. So what the heck's he going to do in this case? It's obvious.
What happened to that common practice? That's what I'd like.
It doesn't matter. I mean, look at it's common. It's completely ridiculous to support this case, but yet they put it together. It's completely ridiculous to say the Michael Cohen and the other witnesses, he's like the star witness, a convicted felon, but to not put a gag order on Michael Cohen as he attacks Trump publicly, but for Trump not to be able to say something back is insane. It's insane, but that's happening too. So every single thing that matters does not matter in this case, and everything that doesn't matter matters because they're going to do anything they can to put this man in jail. And there's good news, though. The Associated Press poll coming out today says only about 1/3 of United States adults say Trump did something wrong in this stupid case. Only 1/3. So you literally have 66% of Americans don't think he did anything wrong in this case.
Well, may God have mercy on all of us, and especially our legitimate president.
Yeah. Well, so do you actually think he's going to get a fair trial, or do you think it's rigged?
Definitely rigged, but I do think that God is going to take control of this. I do, Chris.
Do you do you expect a guilty verdict in this, or do you actually think so?
I do not. It's going to backfire on him, just like everything else they're trying.
How so? You don't think he's not going to get convicted in this? You don't think?
Hey, I wouldn't second guess how it's going to happen, but look at all the stuff they've been throwing at him and how it's all been backfiring him.
I was listening to all this today and going, you know what? He really has had divine intervention along the entire way on this, and it probably will come again. But I'm telling you something. I have no faith in these folks. I mean, do you understand? Like, you might go, I know he's innocent, but this is like with the OJ case, for example. Oh, I know he's innocent, but this is for justice, social justice. Or in this case, I know he's innocent, but this is to put him in jail. We have to stop him. It's for the good of the country. He's Hitler, they're told.
Chris, you and I and the most of us that are listening have faith in the only thing that makes any difference, faith in God.
Yeah. Well, sometimes he wants this to be this bad trial to go down, and he gets convicted. I just don't know what's going to happen. I appreciate your call. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. So Axios has a brand new poll today, and this is why Trump is on trial right now. Rosy memories. Voters' view of Trump's presidency improved. For Joe Biden, the mostly bad view is 27% of Americans say mostly bad view of his presidency. For Donald Trump, it's 23%. So you literally have to understand that as of right now, with 3.5 years in the tank for Biden, he literally is 4 points worse than Trump was for mostly bad. And then as far as not good or bad, Biden has 4 points over him on that too. So anyway, or actually I think it's even more. Point being is Trump's winning. The poll found a big increase, 9 points in registered voters who believe that Trump left the country better off. 9 points better than Biden. Trump left the country better than Biden. Almost 10 percentage points is what American people say yes. 9% of Americans say better off with Trump than Biden after 4 years. Biden has to put him in jail. He cannot defeat him. He is terrified of this man. And it's true. The more I see this, he doesn't have to act publicly terrified, but he is. By the way, one more thing I had to share with you. Trump shows he owns the court by, quote, winking to an officer as he strolls to the defense table. The Daily Mail reporting today. I love that. I love that and love that and I love that. All right, coming up next in the Chris Kroc Show, Rashee Rice and the SMU player, his friend, are now facing a lawsuit that came out today alleging disfigurement and tens of millions of dollars in a brand new lawsuit filed today. And so many folks, when we talked about this that night, that first night, we talked about for 2.5 hours, just wall-to-wall people calling in. And every 30 minutes at least, there was somebody that called in and said, this is not a big deal. Just get the picture of the license plate. It's not a crime. Stop saying it's a crime. They were offended. They were like, what is wrong with you? We're going to re-explore that one next.